Hi, and welcome to Homo Ludens, the channel History and Board Games. Today I'm looking into Operation Barclay, an unusual two-player historical game that delves into the intelligence war between the Allies and the Axis powers during World War II. It was designed by friend of the show Maurice Suckling and published by Spanish publisher Salt and Pepper. This game invites you to experience the high-stake deception and counterintelligence efforts in the Mediterranean theater between 1942 and 1943. But before talking about the game, let's talk about the historical context. So, in early 1943, the tides of war were already turning. The Axis powers had been driven out of North Africa, and the Allies were planning their next big major offensive. At the Casablanca Conference in January 43, Roosevelt and Churchill agreed on the invasion of Sicily, codenamed Operation Husky, and that would be their next move. The target date was set for July 1943. However, there was some significant challenges. The Axis powers were strongly suspecting that Sicily was the intended target, and they were also aware that the Allies would likely employ deception tactics to mislead them on the position of this specific offensive. This led to a quite critical period of strategic intelligence operation aimed at concealing the true invasion plans. To achieve this, the Allies launched what was called Operation Barclay, which was a very sophisticated disinformation campaign designed to convince the Axis that the primary and secondary attacks would occur elsewhere in the Mediterranean rather than in Sicily. Over the following 6 months, Allied intelligence, led by the London Controlling Service, LCS, in the game, worked tirelessly to create this web of deceit, hoping that they would divert the Axis attentions away from Sicily. And the game does this. Operation Barclay puts you in the role of these competing intelligence services. One player is playing the LCS, the other player is playing the Abwehr, so the German military intelligence, and you'll strive to uncover the plans of your opponent. It's really a battle of wits. There's some bluffing, and all this in with the backdrop of one of the most pivotal moments of World War II and very much a highlight of intelligence warfare. Now, let's talk a bit more about the game. So, I had the chance of receiving a prototype from the publisher to try out this new design by Maurice. I was quite excited because over the last few years, Salt and Peppers has published quite a few games that I found quite interesting, fascinating, unique, and I really feel like they were like proposing a bit of a nouvelle vague of historical gaming, which I think is quite interesting. A few of them are Resist, for example, this amazing solo game by David Thompson about the resistance to Franco in Spain. There was also, I think last year, The Hunt by Matthias Kramer, a very cool and interesting card-driven game about deception and hidden movements covering naval warfare during World War II in the Atlantic. And as I said earlier in the introduction, there was one of my favorite game of a couple of years ago, the Battle of Versailles, which is a super cool CDG about the battle for soft power in the world of fashion, which is quite excellent. Is this game in the tradition of those games that I previously mentioned? And is it also proposing quite a unique experience? Most of the game revolves around evidence tokens like this, and I will show some images of the map that players are trying to take control over. So what those tokens do is when you take them, when you win them during the turn, the German player is going to be able to reveal some evidence tokens from the specific theater of operation that is indicated here by the color and the suit. What you're trying to achieve as the German player is figure out where is the primary and secondary landing plan for the Allies. Each landing area has 5 spots. Each of those spots are occupied by different evidence. And if there is 4 green and 1 red, it's the primary. If there is 3 green and 2 red, it's a secondary. And if it's 2 green and 3 red, it's basically a bluffing or not really an actual operation. So this is quite interesting, and players are going to win those evidence token by either managing to create a winning hand in front of them, and I will explain a bit more about this later, or by correctly guessing which player is going to have the best hand this round, which is quite interesting. Each player starts with 4 cards in their hand, and during the whole game, both players will always have 4 cards in their hand. They start by playing 3 cards face up, and some cards have special powers that are helping you to manipulate the different decks, and I will explain a bit more later. But basically, you play 3 cards face up and then 2 cards face down, and what you're trying to do is to create a more valuable hand than your opponent. The hand quality or the hand hierarchy are actually working a bit like poker. So you have the different combinations, 4 of a kind, the flush, you have the full house, and those kind of stuff. So pretty standard stuff. The only twist here is that you don't only have 4 suits, but you have 5 suits, so it can be a bit different. And what you're also trying to do is guess what your opponent is going to have, because you know 3 of their 5 cards of their hand for the round, and you're trying to figure out how good it is going to be compared to you. And you might also try to trick your opponent into thinking that you have a better hand than what you actually have, or a worse hand than what you actually have. So it's a really interesting aspect of the design, this whole hand play and bluffing aspect, which I think is also improved by the fact that each card you play, you draw a new card, and you can choose either from the shared intelligence deck, which are the main cards where you have all the suits and cards ranging from 1 to 13, but you also have your own unique deck that only you can draw from, that will have special powers, special events, and that will help you to do different things that is quite different between the 2 factions. You also have during the game a double cross deck that is being built when you play spies and things like this, where you, instead of drawing 1 card, you will draw 2 cards and then discard 1 into this double cross deck. And this is quite interesting because it's another source of cards that you have more control over, but also you are somewhat sharing with your opponents once again. And it's quite interesting what you can do and how you can manipulate the cards on the different decks. Then you have this evidence result phase where you actually reveal the full hand of cards. You compare the quality of the hands. You also look at what you bid on, if you bid on your opponent or if your opponent bid on you, and you look at which player had the correct guess on who had the better hand. And then you're going to resolve those different tokens and going to reveal the different evidence on the board. Overall, it's quite simple, but it has a lot of very small, interesting decision points, and it gives quite a lot of space for deception and bluffing, which is definitely the theme of the game, so that makes a lot of sense. Anyway, the game continues in this manner, with each round representing amounts, and that amounts that leads to the Allied invasion. And the goal for the LCS is just to prevent the adver from covering what are the true invasion plans, while the adver is trying to figure out what are the 2 landing locations. So pretty straightforward, I would say pretty quick. And I think once you know the game, you probably play in 30 to 40 minutes. And even though this is not a review, I think I would like to share a few thoughts on what I thought about the game, trying it out. Once again, it was still a prototype. I think there are small changes that are going to come in the final product, but it was pretty close to final, I believe. I would start by saying that over time, I've really come to appreciate the unique qualities that certain publishers can bring to the table. And I think that definitely Salt and Paper, with their flair for historical themes and stunning artwork, really have again delivered a really interesting game with Operation Barclay. The art is amazing once again. It really captures the vibe of the era, but also have this comic book style that makes it also quite welcoming and quite interesting. I enjoyed that quite a bit. I really thought that it was really interesting how the game implemented the concept of deception in the gameplay. It's really not surface level. It is actually quite subtle. It's really deeply woven into the mechanics. So even though in a lot of ways this game is abstract, it's definitely a game, I think it makes for a very immersive experience that is really well connected to the theme. It's very smart, I would like to say. Regarding the components, there is maybe a couple of things. Even though I like tarot cards, and those are not tarot cards, they are just oversized regular. So they have the same proportions as a poker card, but they are just really big. Even though it's really nice for the artwork and stuff like this, that's really cool. I think it was just a bit too big and sometimes felt a bit fiddly. And I thought, well, it didn't really need this. Same for those mounts token. I think they are going to be different probably in the final production, but I thought it was not really necessary, and a couple of mine broke during shipping, so maybe something to keep an eye on. But apart from this, I would say that the coupons were pretty stellar. It was just a real pleasure, very nice table presence. And at first, those evidence token, I wasn't really sure about. I thought, oh, maybe it's a bit overproduced, but actually, it makes sense because those need to stay in really good condition for the game to work, because you need to be sure that you don't recognize one token from one game to another. And having this slightly higher quality type of product than what you would have in other games with cardboard stuff is actually a really smart move. And I would say that the tactile aspect of it makes it very satisfying when you play. So that's also definitely a bonus. One other thing that I really liked also about the game was the asymmetry between the two factions. As I said, each of them have their unique deck, and this design choice adds quite some depth and, for me, replayability to the game, because you want to figure out what your faction can do, how you can manipulate the deck, and figure out what is the underlying strategy. Both decks are really tailored to their faction. It makes thematic sense. And it offers quite distinctive strategies and tactical options for both of them, which is quite interesting. Overall, the game feels really unique and refreshing, and that's a quality that is quite rare. So it's something that I definitely want to stress, especially in a very crowded space of historical game, which is a good thing. Don't get me wrong, but it's like it's hard to actually come up with something new and interesting like this. It's not for hardcore war gamers, I would say, or at least if you play this, don't expect a game that is going to be trying to simulate in any serious way what actually happened. It is at core a game, just a very smart and solo game that does an interesting representation of its event. I just want to manage expectations here. It is very well made. And I'm actually particularly looking forward to introducing this game to friends that are not typically war gamers. And I think that I might be able to get it on the table quite frequently. I do have a couple of wishes for the final product, things that I haven't seen in the box. So if you guys have Pepper or listening to me, I think that could be a welcome addition. I don't have much to say. I would just say one thing. If the game could come with a couple of player aid cards that would at least remind players of the hierarchy of the hand quality, that would be nice. First of all, I'm not a big poker player, so that's one thing, but also because it is slightly different than a regular deck of cards, I think it would be nice just to have a reminder of what you can actually do and what are the good hands and the bad hands. But anyway, those were my initial thoughts. I think it's a very interesting proposition. It's currently in its crowdfunding campaign. I think you should definitely check it out. And once again, it is a publisher that I really like their ability to innovate within historical gaming. So their dedication to creating those neat, engaging, and historically themed games is evident. And I really hope that this campaign succeeds, because I just hope that they are going to release even more games in the future. So anyway, if you like this video, let me know. Thank you for watching. Leave a like. And if you wish to support the show, you can donate on Ko-fi, and you can have an invitation to join our awesome Discord server. See you soon. This was Homo Ludens.